Today, many people consider the Shroud of Turin, located in northern Italy, as an actual burial cloth of actual, real Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus Christ. And it seems to be the most important relic in Christianity presently. And this religion of Christianity is a religion of the sun, worshiping the sun, created by Constantine, not created by Jesus Christ, of course. But as far as the shroud itself is concerned, it's basically a long linen sheet, and we can see it on the internet. It's about 14.5 feet by 3.5 feet, with a very, very sort of light silhouette, faint image, what appears to be a naked human, a naked woman or a naked man. It's not 100% man, it's not 100% woman. It just seems like it's a silhouette. And there have been approximately 600,000 hours of research, scientific research, already spent studying this particular piece of cloth. And to this day, they can't figure out what it is. There's no 100% solid evidence. They're just, of course, guessing and estimating and really wanting it to be Jesus. And the shroud itself is called Shroud of Turin, or Torino, which is in the northern eastern region of Italy. It's inside of a large cathedral called St. John the Baptist Cathedral, or St. John the Baptist, the church, one of those. And it's been there since about 15th century. And the cloth itself shows these really poor light type of markings, what appears to be red spots, indicating it could be Jesus' blood, but it isn't, it's just paint. It's also been burnt and damaged pretty bad twice. And it was first photographed in the 18th century, but the researchers have examined some more, and they've hinted that some of these markings on this shroud, on this sheet, are actual damages due to torture, so bleeding from the hands and shoulders and head, just as we hear from the typical and standard biblical story, the mistranslated text. Bible, of course, is a large combination of mistranslations and stolen stories from ancient civilizations. So whether people say Joshua, Joshua ben Joseph, Joshua, Yahuwah, Yahweh, or Jesus, these names, whatever name you wish to use, a lot of these things from the Bible are just stolen stories predating Jesus by thousands of years, going back to Horus would be one. But let's be honest, Jesus was not the only person that was ever covered by a shroud, so this shroud could be anybody's. And crucifixion, he wasn't crucified, but this crucifixion was a common type of execution and murder. Greeks did it, Romans took it over, perfected it. Both of these, Romans and Greeks, did it all the time. So how do we know the shroud is from Jesus? We don't, we're guessing. We're really wanting it to be. So this evidence of shroud, because of the red marks, which I'm going to talk in a minute, is not the real evidence. People are also saying that the shroud proves that Jesus had anal bleeding, liver bleeding, kidney bleeding. Of course, these are estimates. The material of itself, the shroud, is real linen, actual, real basic linen. It was common, it was very cheap at that time. This was already proven. And the Bible mentions the term linen cloth, burial linen cloth, about 6 times, but they never mention the word shroud. Shroud is a made-up term by humans, for humans. The shroud we see today, this linen sheet, is about 0.14, so 0.14 inches thick. It's made up of these different threads, anywhere between 70 and 120 fibers per thread. So overall, it's in a pretty rough shape due to the fires. And people, again, don't talk about the fires. So there's been 2 fires. They damaged this shroud heavily, definitely. And it's happened in the 15th century, which burned a lot of different parts of this linen. Open holes, marks on both sides, so front and the back, all along the edges. This is why we see dark burgundy and dark black. And then we've seen painted over marks. People confuse it with actual genetic material, DNA, blood, real blood from Jesus Christ. This isn't his blood. It's burnt marks. That's all it is. It's burnt marks, and then later on, which I'll explain in a second, it was painted over a couple different times. The darker red spots, but they're fire damages, burned fibers, not blood drops. That's a fact. And in this fire, this badass fire that happened, the shroud was damaged just horribly. It didn't burn the whole thing. It didn't destroy the entire thing. It's a pretty thick shroud. But what it did is it damaged it all over the place, everywhere, and especially all throughout the shroud, with random holes, random marks, open holes through the shroud. So the shroud is extremely damaged. So I have no idea how they're concluding that this belonged to actual Jesus Christ of Nazareth. But of course, this is what religious stories do. They come up with Disney stories and turn them into reality. Hollywood does the best job at that. But in 1980, a doctor used this electron microscopy type of thing and X-ray diffraction technology to study a lot of these red spots, and he found colors, a red ochre color and a vermilion color. These are pigments made from iron oxide and mercury sulfide. And what they do, meaning the shroud has been painted over twice to enhance the blood images. Not real Jesus' blood again, but blood images where we think it's a blood image. The red ochre, it can be Googled, it's a natural pigment made from clay and iron oxide. It's been used forever. It's been used since prehistoric times for cave art and rituals. And then the other one, the vermilion, is a bright red pigment. They call it the perfect red. It's made, again, from mercury sulfide. It's used in ancient art all the time. It actually resembles like real blood. If we Google all the pictures, we'll be able to see that. So this entire misconception of this shroud being Jesus' shroud, it's just a large misconception, it's a conspiracy, it's a complete nonsense. Absolute nonsense. The red spots are not his blood. Absolutely not. For the 10th time again, these are just fire damages plus paint that was used to cover it. And the first known mention of the shroud came from the 18th century, from a knight named Geoffrey. I don't know his last name. Later on, he wrote to Bishop of Troyes. He said to the Pope, he says, hey, listen, this shroud is definitely a forgery. This isn't real. And if we go from then to today, not necessarily today's year, but 1978, I believe the year was, the late 70s, the Shroud of Turin research project was started. They called it the STURP. And it was created to study this shroud scientifically. And over the years, all kinds of tests have been done. The radiocarbon dating or the carbon dating, the X-ray, the pollen analysis, all of them. You name it, they've done it. And the conclusions were always the same. They called it a relic. They called it a forgery. And it's a piece, a wonderful piece actually, of ancient linen, medieval type of art. The famous carbon dating then came in 1988, the last one that was ever done. And it was done by 3 groups. So originally it was 20 groups. They've done it 3 groups, Oxford, Zurich, and Arizona, sponsored by the British Museum and a group of other people from UK. And they dated this linen to be between 1260 and 1390. So again, medieval times. All came conclusive to that. But we can't say it's from Jesus Christ. And what they've done was, which is a large catch, most people don't know, how much of material was tested? 7 centimeters. 7 centimeters for the bottom right corner was only tested. That's it. Just one time. That's all they've done. A tiny little minuscule piece. And remember, this linen was contaminated, damaged by fire, mishandling, patched, painted over, dirty and filthy, handled by so many different people. It's not an ideal candidate type of fiber or linen to be for reliable carbon dating testing anyway, but they've concluded it to be Jesus's. So that's unfortunate, but the supporters of the real Jesus shroud idea often point also to art, renderings, such as the one called The Position of Christ by Giovanni Battista, 16th century, or the second one, Saint Veronica by Lorenzo Costa, 15th century, and then every other artist after that copied it and made their own version. But those are just artistic interpretation, that's all. That's not real evidence. That's not real evidence that the shroud is real. Artists copying one another, we see that today. Art's copied, music's copied, beats, songs, lyrics, it's always copied. It's what humans do. We're good at that. But the Shroud of Turin is just a religious psyop, that's all. It's designed to keep people believing and giving away their energy, worshiping something that's not real. It's exactly how religions work. It's not of actual Jesus Christ, this crucifixion linen cover. The crucifixion and the covering of the linen thing was a common form of execution and burial in those ancient times. From Greeks to Romans, and Romans really perfected it. So is this shroud of Jesus? We don't know that. We're just guessing or really wanting it to be, but is it? We don't know that. The shroud itself is real. Of course it's real. It's old linen. Absolutely it existed, but it's not from Jesus Christ for so many different reasons, including the fact that it doesn't even look like actual Jesus Christ. And the reason why people think it's Jesus Christ, because they're relying on the picture or present picture of Jesus, what he looks like. But that's not what he looks like. First of all, he wasn't white. He didn't have white hair. He lived on. He was never crucified. He got married. He had children. Died in Southern Europe region in the 80s or age 80 or so. He went to Tibet, Egypt, and India. His parents' names is not what we're told. Joseph is not his father's name. Mary was not a virgin. She had hybridized DNA and etc. And we always see the depiction of white people. Was Jesus white, Caucasian, like I'm Caucasian? Of course not. He was black. Was Noah white? No, of course not. None of these people were white. Born to a virgin, created miracles, had 12 bodies. These are repeated stories from ancient civilizations, including Horus, that resemble Jesus' stories. And the same symbols appear in Hindu, ancient Egypt that we see today, that we often associate Christianity, that we often associate Jesus' death, that we often associate three kings. No. Three kings is a misrepresentation of the three stars of the Orient. He walked on water. No, he didn't. It's a mistranslation of sun's reflection on the water. So the Cesare Borgia is a name everyone should Google. Cesare Borgia is the son of one of the popes. That is the picture that we're looking at today of Jesus Christ. We're looking at a son of Pope called Cesare Borgia. The picture of Jesus was modeled after the gentleman of Cesare Borgia. And lastly, people that claim that they channel Jesus Christ. There's about 4 or 5 people in the channeling industry that say that. I've met 3 master channelers, they refer to themselves. Yeah, they got a master ego is what they got. They love their master lies, agendas that they propose to innocent humans, taking advantage of people's money and so forth. So either these people have a very large imagination, confusion, or they're just extraordinarily deceptive. And I'm going to go with the deceptive part because I've seen them channel and there's no energy exchange. They never show their videos. They're just claiming they channel Buddha, Muhammad, Mary, and Jesus, and all of these things. And no one today is channeling Jesus Christ for a very large secret, something I'm not going to disclose on camera. Very, very, very large, gigantic, and colossal reason. No human today is channeling the actual consciousness of the human we are referring to today as Jesus Christ, the Jesus man, this human. The human that we're referring to as Jesus, who lived at that time. The Bible doesn't tell us about him, but what we think Jesus was, no one's absolutely channeling this human being. Absolutely not. The Bible itself, especially the English version, the most mistranslated version, of course, is heavily, heavily mistranslated from the original Hebrew text, but not just Hebrew, but also Aramaic texts. Hebrew itself comes from the ancient Canaanite Phoenician roots. It didn't come from Rome. It didn't come from any popes. It didn't come from his 12 apostles. It didn't come from Jesus or Mary or Joseph. No. The history is quite long. And in conclusion, when it comes to this shroud, I verified this with my own galactic counterparts. This is a damaged shroud that belonged to someone completely different, way after this human Jesus. Has nothing to do with the actual human being, again, that we are referencing, that's called Jesus Christ. The Shroud of Turin is a medieval relic, real linen, real shroud, but not some divine artifact. And it's another religious Disney story, like many other Disney stories that Bibles talk about, like the Noah's Ark, completely made up, Moses, completely made up, parting of the sea, completely made up. To this day, they're proposing these stories over and over with absolutely zero evidence. And those who encounter Jesus, I spent a lot of times in the astral state, 5th, 6th density, which is way above the dream states, who encounter Jesus in the NDE, which is near-death experience. They're not encountering the real Jesus. They're encountering a silhouette of their higher selves, higher fractal consciousness, or higher dimensional layers of your souls, or your galactic guides who don't want to frighten you with how they look like. So they show you something you're very safe, you're very comfortable with. Your psyche won't be shocked by, you will not be petrified by. And they'll give you a message like, hey, it's not your time to die yet, you got to go back, you got to do this. So the NDEs who experience Jesus, it's not a consciousness of Jesus. This is a different subject, of course, but the actual consciousness of Jesus, or Horus, or Krishna. A lot of these individuals from our ancient past, all of them have been already incarnated, and presently today, Jesus that we call Jesus is an incarnated into something completely different that we would never guess. So it's very important that we can respect history and faith, yes, but we don't have to blindly believe myths such as the Shroud of Turin to be of the actual Jesus Christ of Nazareth, of this particular human. And lastly, I'll just say there's tremendous levels of hidden facts, particularly hidden by the Vatican, who Jesus was. This was not his name. So we don't know his life, we don't know his story, his struggles, his marriage, children, wife, his travels, his death in Europe, present incarnation, his real name, his real appearance. We don't know any of this.